Deuteronomy, playbook of the Western world. The more I look at it, the more this becomes absolutely the truth. You know, at any point, if you say to Kamala Harris, Keir Starmer, Winston Churchill, how dare you? They will say is in essence, well, they are idol worshippers. It's okay, I can do this. When they then react, strike back, in other words, the second act, then you call it terrorism. But the initial act, I read something really interesting today on Substack, I think. The chap was saying that that there is no equivalence between Nat Turner and Hamas. And he was saying because, you know, that the Israelis have been genuinely persecuted, whereas the slaveholders of the Americas are not a culture of persecution. They've not been persecuted historically. And he's absolutely right. It don't make no damn bit of difference to me in terms of, you know, in other words, one people, the Israelis, have trauma which just doesn't justify, but it certainly explains their violence, and the European descended slaveholder in the Americas, the Indian killers in America, do not have that justification. That's the only difference. Anyway, Ta-Nehisi Coates' new book, The Message, if found by a moderate in a backpack, would be thought by the moderate to be the work of an extremist. This was pointed out, I believe, on CBS. One of those shows very inappropriate to this rather magnificent talent. An extremist, by the way, is no longer an extreme thinker, a radical thinker. He or she is a murderer by the definition of a moderate, the new definition. I, personally, am a radical thinker, so radical I'd not dream of taking another's life. Unlike the current Democratic Party, who just seems to revel in it. And I would not do that even in self-defense. In the moment of self-defense, I'd be too slow. I will confess this. I'd not anticipate my enemy's intent. And premeditated self-defense, in other words, killing people because you believe they threaten you, is not self-defense. It is the preparation of a coward. The great majority of murder in the history of humanity has been committed by moderates. By default, the person who shalt not kill ever is the extremist. As I remember mainstream media, I only engage in short bursts these days. It is full of heads, presumably human, speaking about mass murder like the latest hockey score. Quote, the idol worshippers of Saskatchewan took a real beating tonight from the good guys of Yahweh, just took them out. The terrorist, the term Coates cross-examiner wanted to use, is only the other moderate army with fewer flags and bombs. He or she, idol worshipper, by which the cretin meant not a worshipper of me, is responding in kind. The extremist stands in the field and says something about first stones. When one murderer accuses another murderer of murder, you know you are in moderate territory. In this story, the moderate is defined by the unexamined life. There they sit, dressed in the rewards of their unoriginality, Kamala-like, spouting stuff about good and bad, evil and me and sending off the bombs of their righteousness. I'm kind of angry, I guess. On a recent read of Deuteronomy, I thought the dialogue between Moses and the big boy has great comic material. If I were directing the scene, I'd have God spouting away, foaming at the mouth, threatening this and promising that, with Moses protesting as his extremism grew. Dude, smite them? Why? I mean, I love you and all, but they seem cool. And the idols, well, what are you? End quote. And we all know God's response. If you hadn't read it or it's been a while, have a look. I found my copy in a backpack.